Hi, I'm Ori Witten, owner of Adaptive Service and Repair and FixMowersFast.com. We offer on-site repairs in Middle Tennessee. There are about 8 counties surrounding Nashville. We'll go out and work on folks' lawn and garden equipment right at their house or their business. Today we're going to be focusing on Briggs Strattons' newest engine for push mowers, power washers, log splitters, anything in that size range. You're going to see this engine that Briggs Stratton makes on them. Now, for granted, you may see other engines like Honda's, Kohler makes a few, but today we're going to be looking at the Briggs Stratton engine. It's on a Toro self-propelled rear-wheel drive push mower. Give you guys a little bit closer look at the carburetor we're talking about here. So if you have this plastic composite carburetor on your push mower, power washer, log splitter, whatever, we're going to be going over what to look for and how to fix a fuel issue. So we're going to look for spark, compression, and fuel anytime a machine is not running. Okay, so this is our air cleaner box. We take this off. This is our actual air cleaner. Take it off as well. And we'll see this upper hole here. This upper hole is no concern to us. This is just a breather for the backside of the engine. Down here is our actual air intake. So if we look in here, we can see this flapper. That is our self-choking flapper. That is our choke flapper. But in this case, it is a self-choking one. That way you don't have to prime it. You don't have to turn the choke on. It should just fire up when you pull it over. So what we want to use is carbon choke or starting fluid, something in that nature. And we want to get the straw on our can and push it back past that flapper. So we want to insert that straw in as far as possible. Don't lose the straw in there. Be a little bit of a headache for you. Give it a little bit of a squirt. And then we can go ahead and we'll pull it over, and the machine should. Alright, well. You can't see it in the video, but I did not shut the machine off. It shut off by itself. So that means that it ran off of our carbon choke and it wasn't able to pick up our fuel and continue to run. So now what we have our tools here. I'm using a 1/4 inch ratchet set. I have either 5/16 or number 8. So I have a 5/16 right here. I'm going to put it on our drill, and we're going to zip this top cover off. That's going to make our life a lot easier. If you're careful enough, you can lift this guy straight up off of here. And in this case, we can just take it back and set it on the bagger. You don't want to flip that thing over because the screws or the bolts will fall out all over the ground. You'll have to be looking for those. So just be careful there. Now we'll see, we have our air cleaner box that's connected to our carburetor. We'll have to take that off as well. So we can either use, again, a 5/16 or a number 8 on our outside bolts. These ones are going to be black. And we'll zip those out. And I'll sit those down here. Sit those there. Now we're going to use a number 7 to take our center screws out. Take these guys out, set them in the same spot. Okay. So now we can pull this cover off of here, and when we look at the back side of it, we'll see this right there. That is for this hose to connect to later whenever we put it back on. Just want to make sure this hose gets put on that. That is the breather for the back side of the engine. And we definitely want to get that hooked up because we don't want stuff getting in there and into the engine later on. Now we can take and just wiggle and pull out. Alright, so our carburetor just came off. So our carburetor is loose. We still have to take off our self-choking mechanism here. There is a coil in here, a spring coil, that's connected to our exhaust on the other side. And what happens is the spring heats up and it pushes over, and you can see that is connected here, and that makes sure that our choke opens up. So if it's cold, this goes back over. This allows our choke flapper to be pulled back by our spring, and it'll start on a cold start. On a hot start, you really don't want a whole lot of choking going on, and choking is what restricts the airflow. If you restrict the airflow, the engine will pull more fuel. So that's what our choke does, if you didn't know. So now we can take, you can do this a bunch of different ways really. The gas tank is just in these little slots here and here. So you can pull the gas tank up off of there. So now you may want to take both hands, and we have our gas tank and our carburetor off of here. So we can now just let our gas tank go down like so. We'll take our carburetor back, remove this, and we'll take out. See how I'm pivoting, making it a little bit easier to turn. You'll see that there's a Z-bend on this governor rod here that runs our throttle. So we can take it and then bend down, unhooking this Z. So we'll slide that up in there, slide that there, and now we have this guy here ready to be cleaned. So what are we going to do with this old gas? First things first, we're going to want to disconnect our carburetor from our gas tank. So we'll need my favorite pair of pliers, lineman pliers. So we'll simply just go like that, squeeze our clamp, pull it back, and we'll go over our tank here and drain it out. So typically gonna be getting gas on yourself at this point. If you want to wear some rubber gloves, that would be recommended. Main thing we want to focus on here is getting the actual tank cleaned out first. Then once we have our tank cleaned out, we can flush our lines out afterwards. So I'm just going to give it a little shake, and we'll dump out the gas. I'm going to use some carbon choke to clean the gas tank out. Now listen carefully here. We do not use carbon choke. We do not use starting fluid ever to clean the insides of these plastic carburetors. They're plastic. This is some pretty nasty stuff. Only use your starting fluid, your carburetor cleaner, to test the fuel system to see if it's working by spraying this in while the carburetor's still connected, or to clean your tank. We're going to use WD-40 to clean the inside of our carburetor when we get there. We're flushing this tank out good here. So we got a little bit of our cleaner put in there. Now I'm going to get some good gas. I recommend just using gas to clean your gas tank out. If you put water in there, water and fuel don't mix very well. WD-40 probably would clean it out, but I would still flush it out with good gas. So now watch, if you, like I just did, when I closed that gas cap, plugged this fuel line off and plugged our breather line here and shook that gas, it pressurized the tank. So just make sure you don't have any of this stuff pointed towards your eyes or anything once you go to release it after you're done shaking the tank. So we are draining this tank out. draining it out, and I'm gonna go ahead for good measure and do this one more time. Things back in. So with our carburetor, we want to pull the bowl off of our carburetor. So same number 7 we used to pull the silver screws off of our air box, we are going to use to take these off. Okay, so we have those off. We'll move them to the side. And we have a flathead screwdriver here. So we're going to take and get in between. If you look down here, you can see that the carburetor has a little bit of a lip. You can get down in underneath and get it started off of there. You can start to see the gap form, and we're going to work our way around. Now, when you typically do this, we want to leave fuel in the bowl. So once you start to pull the bowl off, don't have it off to the side, don't have it upside down. Try to keep your carburetor as straight up and down as possible. Why do we do this? So once we get it off, we can look at the fluid in there. And I say fluid because sometimes it can be water, sometimes it can be gas. We're never really sure what we're gonna see when we get it off of there. To be honest with you, this doesn't look too bad. So I'm gonna have to say that our issue is up in the actual carburetor. So now that we have this off, we can see the lid. It looks like maybe sand down in there. It's not sand, but that's going to be gum. All right, so here we have our float. So how our float works is we have our bowl. This goes on like so. The bowl fills up with fluid. The float floats up and shuts the fuel off. Our fuel goes in through where our fuel line was hooked at the gas tank, and the float floats up, shuts the fuel off. And you'll see how it shuts the fuel off here in just a second. We are going to pop that up out of there, gentle. Do one side, and then you can grab the other side with your hand, or maybe use the screwdriver. And we'll pull that up out of there, and you'll see the needle that shuts your fuel off. So when the float floats up, so this is the way it's going to be in the carburetor, float floats up, this needle pushes up into where the fuel comes in to the carburetor, shutting the fuel off. That's probably not our issue in this case. So now we're going to get to the brass tacks here, where the problem is. So we'll get in between our main jet here with the screwdriver, get underneath it. You want to be on this black part, clear of the white. The white is the main jet, and we're going to pry a little bit. Sometimes these can be a pain in the butt, so don't be alarmed about that. But just be gentle, get it up out of there. So we have 3 holes on the bottom, and we're going to have 1 hole on the top side, but pretend I said that backwards. In the carburetor, this is actually the bottom, and then this is the top. But we have 3 holes here, we have 1 hole here, and we are going to take our WD-40, and we will clean these out. We're going to spray each one of these holes, and you'll see fluid come out of each one of these holes. And something I like to do in this case is I'll plug this bottom hole as I'm blowing through that, and we'll see it squirt out there, and then we'll spray this one, and we just want to make sure they're all cleaned out. So another good thing to do while you're doing this is keep your hands clean. So as you clean a part, clean your hands, and make sure where you lay your part down, it's clean. If you're working in a dirty space, sometimes what I like to do is I'll clean the bowl, like we're doing here now. Just gonna wipe it out, and then we will take and spray it out good, and now we have somewhere clean to put all of our parts. So we'll take this guy, wipe it down a little bit, and then we'll spray it out again, spray the holes out real quick. And we'll put it in there. We know it's clean. So you'll see the needle just fell out of our bowl. That's okay. That's okay. I'm going to go over how to put that back in there, because there's a really good chance that's going to happen to you guys, and then you're going to say, this carburetor is kind of cut and dry, which side it goes in, but some carburetors can be a little tricky. Okay, so we wiped our needle down. I'm not going to spray the needle off yet because I have to grab the port that actually stops the fuel, so anything on my hand could get on there to obstruct that. So we'll put it back in our float like it's supposed to there. And see it hanging. We want to be careful it doesn't fall out of there again, because that piece can fall down onto the ground, or you can lose it pretty darn easy. So I'm going to sit that in our bowl as well. Nice and clean, ready to rock and roll. So get up in here, scrub this guy out real quick. Usually the top portion of the carburetor on the inside is not going to be too dirty. And again, don't get too carried away with cleaning the outside of your carburetor. If it's really bad, go ahead. So I'd rather honestly keep it just dry. That stuff's going to be on there. It's not going to hurt anything. We're going to spray out our fuel intake here. You see it coming out down the one of my hand. That's where the jet goes. That's connected to our bowl, or our float. So, okay, spray up in there. We can see these holes here. Spray into this hole. If this were a carburetor that didn't have a self-choking mechanism on it, this hole here would be what our primer would go to, and the primer would push fuel up through our main jet to get the machine started. So we just spray out all the different areas here, different holes, all that good stuff. And we can start to put it back together. So we see here that one is longer than the other. So we can look down in our carburetor here, and we'll see that this side goes deeper than this side. This side doesn't go as deep. So, cut and dry, we'll take our longer side and put it in our deeper side. We'll take our shorter side and put it in our shallower side. Just like so. And grab both hands. Hear that pop. What I like to do with any main jet after it's back in the carburetor is spray it out once it's in there. Yeah. You can hear that. The difference in that deeper gargle sound means it's spraying up through all of the different orifices in the carburetor itself. What we'll do with our float and our main fuel intake needle is we'll spray off the needle. Won't worry about spraying off the float just yet, and keep this upright like that, because if we take it the other way, well, our needle didn't fall out, but chances are our needle will fall out if it's the other way. So we'll take this guy like so, and very carefully insert our needle into where the fuel comes in. And you'll see we still have to put our little pin here in. So we'll take our pin and lift up our float a little bit, put our pin in just like so, and we can see that just pushes down in there. We hear the snap. We'll spray this out one more time, and I'm not going to wipe it out after I spray it out, just because you're going to get stuff off of your rag in there. Even if you use a brand new rag, you're getting fibers in there. I mean, we're talking very small, very minute holes in this main jet. So we want to spray it out, rinse it out, try not to wipe it out again after you spray it out. I recommend double spraying everything as you're putting it back together. Spray a piece. You put one part on, you're going to the next one, spray it, go to the next one, spray it, go to the next one, spray it. So, and we'll take it in. Yep, stop there. Probably could have went with a 1, but the... So first things first here, let's go ahead and get our carburetor back on. So now that the fuel's out of the tank, we don't really have to worry about putting the tank and the carburetor back on at the same time. We're just going to put our carburetor back on, and it'll make it easier to hook up our connecting rods that run our throttle and help our self-choking mechanism. So first we'll put our self-choking mechanism back on, but actually before we do that, let's go over some things here. So we can see if you ever do this and your flapper gets lost or gets convolvulated, sometimes it can get on the outside and you're like, okay, well, put it back together. That's not right. This is the wrong way, wrong way. I'm gonna pull it up, put it on the back side, right way. This is how it goes. And then our spring hooks in here. And I'm just going to move this so we can see the front, and the spring hooks in on the front, right, just like that. So that's how everything goes back together on the top. It should look just like that. Okay, so now we'll put our choke helper on. There we go. And we'll put our main throttle back on. It may have been a little bit easier to do our main throttle before this, just so we could have done 2 motions, side in with the throttle, and then tipped it back. Either way is fine though. Another thing to keep an eye on is on the back side of this, we have a plastic piece that can pop out of there, and there's a rubber that goes in behind it. So sometimes when you pull your carburetor off, this will be stuck on our air intake here. So if that happens, we'll take this rubber, push it in like so. It's going to fit in there nice and even like. So just take your time, work your way around. Then you just take this plastic piece and you go and it pushes in there. Heard it lock in. That's it. So we take our breather hose, move it up, slide it on. Just kind of ease it in there, pops in. Now we'll take our gas tank, and we see our slots here, slot, slot. These go down into those slots. So easy stuff. Down we go. Now that's on. And don't forget, we have to use our pliers to get our clamp back on our gas line. So we see our clamp right here. We grab it and just slide it back down until we get it to the end of the fuel line, so it clamps it and holds tight for the fuel to go into the carburetor. We don't want that to leak. That wouldn't be good. So now we want to do this process in this order. We don't want to put our cover back on just yet. So if we put our cover back on, what's going to happen is we can't see our breather line to get it hooked back on, and you have to reach back in behind there. It's a big pain in the butt. So let's put this on first. That way everything lines up nice and easy. You can reach in there, put your breather hose back on. So we'll put our breather hose on. That'll help hold it into place. There's little nipples here that also go into these slots. That'll help you as well. The black ones go on the outside, the silver ones go on the inside. So again, we have a number 7 for our silvers, and we can use a number 8 or a 5/16 for our outside. And I just get these kind of snug. We don't want to over tighten, especially these plastic screws. Just get them in there to where they're tight. Okay. so that's on. Now we can put our top cover on. It should just slide right down on there. Well, give your cord a little pull and you can see that it will slide right down on. And we might have to do a little bit more than that. These holes, see our bolt coming through, I'm pushing that up and line it up. Looks like we're lined up now. And you always want to start them by hand. I'm kind of breaking the rules here using my drill, but I've been doing this a long time. We really should have checked our oil to see if there's any gasoline in the oil. I'm gonna give it a little smell here. We're gonna drain this oil. Basically, what I'm thinking is going on here is, with that carburetor bad, fuel leaked from our carburetor into our main cylinder and seeped into our crankcase. And we don't want gasoline mixed with our oil. So we're gonna go ahead, I'm gonna run out real quick, grab our oil pan and drain it out before we fire it. Dipstick. So I'm gonna leave the dipstick in, and we're going to just tip this guy right up. The reason I'm leaving the dipstick in is we're inside, and right about here, oil's gonna start pouring out. I just don't want to make a mess. So now that it's tipped up, we can go ahead and take our cap out. So I'm just gonna turn and pull it out somewhat quickly to just save, again, from making more of a mess. When you think you have gasoline in the oil, something that you may want to do, something that I recommend, the professional thing to do, would to be an oil flush. We want to get any gasoline out of our crankcase that may still be in there. 10W30 is going to be a safe bet. To do an oil flush, we're just going to put a little bit of oil in there, because you don't want to put such little in there that it doesn't flush it, but somewhere in between your two dots there. Typically I would put gas in it and let it fire up and run for about, let's say 30 seconds to a minute. Let that oil circulate good through there. And then that's going to get in there and it's going to wash around. And again, we're going to drain this oil back out. Once this oil is drained back out, then we'll fill it back up to the proper amount. Alrighty, so we're drained out. I'm gonna take this guy, cap it up, flip her up. So now we're filling it up to the proper amount to make sure that it's ready to run and ready to go. Again, slowly, a little bit at a time, and we want to get the oil up to this upper dot. Now if you go a hair above it, that's okay. You start getting more than a hair, that's not okay. Not okay, not okay, not okay. A hair above's okay. Alright guys, so here we are. Brought the push mower outside to see if it'll fire up. I haven't tried it yet. Let's see if we did any good. See a little smoke coming out of our exhaust there. We did have it tipped upside down, and we did know that the oil was overfilled. So in a situation like this, if you ever see white smoke just blowing out of the exhaust, we're a lot of times in a situation that we dealt with here where the gasoline ran into our crankcase, you're gonna see that. You may even have to pull your spark plug out. And that's something I probably should have brought up earlier. Pull your spark plug out, then you pull it over, and it's gonna volcano oil and gas out of the spark plug hole. So just beware of that. Maybe put a rag in front of it, have somebody help you out, or bring it outside and blow it into your grass. I don't really know. If you're by yourself, that may be the only option you have. So seems like it's firing right up. First you liked what you saw here, thank you. Yeah, thank you for watching, and like and subscribe below. This is our first video. We're going to be doing lots of cool things here coming up. Alright guys, we're back. So, alright guys, we're back. So, what you missed is I actually overfilled the oil. So what I had to do is tip it up and drain a little bit out to get it down to the right level. It's pretty easy to do on these, so don't beat yourself up if you do it. Again, don't leave too much oil in there. Drain a little bit out if it's way over full. Don't be lazy. You don't want too much in there, because next thing you know, you're gonna fire it up. There's gonna be white smoke blowing all over the place. They're gonna say, "Holy smokes!" Your neighbors are gonna be looking at you saying, "Why didn't they call fixmowersfast.com?"